And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We have some announcements. Grafton Recreation's 2023 Summer Concert Series begins tomorrow at the Common and will continue every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. through August 16th. Also taking place on Wednesdays at the Common this summer is the Grafton Farmers Market, open from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. The Grafton Select Board is looking for interested individuals to fill vacancies on the following boards and committees: the Accessibility Advisory Commission, Affordable Housing Trust, Agriculture Commission, the Board of Sewer Commissioners, Cable TV Oversight Committee, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Grafton Cultural Council, the Historic District Commission, Historical Commission, Planning Board Associate Member, Recreation Commission, the Veterans Advisory Committee, and the Waste Reduction and Recycling Committee. Please apply via email to taoffice@grafton-ma.gov by using our online portal or by sending a letter of interest to the Select Board. The Municipal Center will be closed for paving from Monday, July 17th through Friday, July 28th. All our departments can be reached by telephone and email during their normal business hours throughout this closure. In the evenings, the building will be open for our regularly scheduled board and committee meetings. First up, we have a public hearing, and that is for the Grafton Flea Market.
Okay, so I'll read the legal notice. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws, as amended, that an application has been made by Dung Kim Do, Grafton Flea Market Corp., to amend the hours of operation on the wine and malt beverage license and restaurant currently in the name of Grafton Flea Market Corp., doing business as Grafton Flea Market. The premises is located at 296 Upton Street, Grafton, Mass. The premises consists of an outdoor patio, 16 feet by 88 feet, adjacent to an existing restaurant with storage of portable beverage cart and inventory within restaurant. Patio to be enclosed with a 4-foot picket fence. Upon this application, the Grafton Select Board will hold a public hearing on July 11th, 2023, in Conference Room A of the Grafton Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road. Remote meeting participation will be available, and the meeting link will be posted on the July 11th, 2023 agenda. The meeting begins at 7 p.m. The purpose of this hearing is to provide an opportunity for public comment. Grafton Select Board. Published Grafton News, June 15 and 22 of 2023, Town Bulletin Board and Town webpage.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Foley? Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second. I have a motion and a second. We've got Ray remote tonight, so we will take all votes by roll call. Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, aye.
Otten, aye.
Jefferson, aye.
Foley, aye.
All right. The public hearing is open.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to continue the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Mead?
Mr. Chair, I think we have to continue it to a date.
Yep, July 18th.
Sorry, July 18th, 2023. I move the board vote to continue the public hearing to July 18th, 2023.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Mr. Alamo?
Alamo, aye.
Otten, aye.
Jefferson, aye.
Foley, aye.
All right. The motion carries.
Are we
All right,
closing the
so-
public hearing?
No.
Yep.
you.
We move
Never mind,
on.
sorry.
I believe. So thank you very much. I believe we're just waiting for ZBA to
Correct.
have a meeting. So they'll meet, and then we will continue this hearing after that ZBA meeting happens.
Correct.
All right. So next up, we have appointments. We have an election worker, Sherilyn Reno.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I go ahead and just make a motion. Is she here, or we're just
No,
moving?
election
We don't do
workers
that.
don't come in.
Okay. I move the board vote to appoint Sherilyn Reno as the election worker in the town of Grafton for a one-year term expiring June 30th of 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Foley, aye.
Motion carries. All right, next we have appointments from the fire chief and town administrator. First up is the auxiliary firefighter at Station 2. I'm gonna totally mash this up, but Lays Child Malo.
Just make a motion.
I
or-
think we can just make a motion for this, yep.
I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Lays Child Mallow as an auxiliary firefighter at Station 2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Foley, aye.
Motion carries. We got one more.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Thomas Edwards to the position of maintenance custodian.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Foley, aye.
All right, the motion carries. Next, we have new business. So we have a one-day beer and wine license for Rushford and Sons Brew House.
That's maybe me.
All right, come on in, Miss Snow.
Hi. All of a sudden, I was listening, kind of.
Well, good evening. It's nice to have you in our meeting.
We are going to have an antique car group come into the Willard on that day, and we thought it would be fun to have a beer truck come in, which is what they're doing.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any questions?
Is the event limited to the Minuteman Model A Club, or is it open to the public?
Open to the public.
Awesome.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Rushford and Sons Brew House on August the 19th, 2023 at the Willard House and Clock Museum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Foley, aye.
The motion carries. All right, next up.
By the way, guys, before we move on, Brian from Rushford and Sons here. If you do have any questions going forward, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you very much for making this so easy, and we're really excited to do our first event in Grafton. So thank you for having us, and thank you again.
Mr. Goodman, thanks so much for attending our meeting. I hope you all the success with the event.
Hey, thank you so much. Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot.
You too.
Bye.
All right, next up we have recommendations from the Traffic Safety Committee. Chief Crapo here. Thanks for coming.
Good evening. Okay, I think you should all have my recommendations, but I'll read it off for the record. Traffic Safety Committee met on June 14th to discuss several petitions. After review and discussion on all the requests, we came up with the following recommendations for the select board. The first one was a request from Craig Pola for speed limit signs on Miriam Road. There was discussion once again on posting signs in different areas. After brief discussion regarding speeding on Miriam Road, the lack of density preventing the installation of enforceable speed limit signs, a motion was made to place 2 30-mile-per-hour advisory signs. Those would be the yellow signs, one in each direction at the discretion of the DPW. Motion was made, second passed, unanimous. You want to just go through all of them, and then I don't know how you want to approve each one, or do you want to approve them all, or?
I just wanted to ask a question.
Let's approve them all, Mr. Jefferson.
Chief, could you just quickly touch on that point about the lack of density? It's like to learn a little bit more about that.
Well, basically, the speed limit and all that, some of the things you consider when doing speed limits is if it's a thickly settled area, and the density and how many houses are in, so many feet, whatever. And Miriam Road does not really qualify, and that's under the manual on uniform traffic control devices.
So instead of putting the official speed limit
Yeah,
signs,
it'll
we've
be
got to put
advisory
advisory signs.
Correct.
So we have a number of those around town and in some of the
That's
smaller roads. Okay, let's move on to number 2.
Okay, number 2 is a request from Peter Ballantyne to place signs directing truck traffic away from East Street and onto Route 30. After discussion that included the use of basically GPS guidance, the reason why we feel tractor trailer trucks, and we discussed this a while back, using these side streets more or less, is they're following GPS and they're not really looking out their windshields, I guess. Hopefully, these signs will help to keep truck traffic off East Street, and we've done that on a couple of roads that where a tractor trailer has no business going. So the discussion was made. We'd like to see installed no truck signs on East Street at the intersection with Waterville Street. Signs will include visual and of a trailer truck so as not to prevent passage for normal delivery vans. Because there are some instances where larger vans or whatever need to go on these side streets, but 18-wheelers and vehicles like that have no business up in that area. So motion was made, second passed, unanimous.
All right, any questions on that? All right,
Any questions? Okay. Number 3 is a request from Ron Dennis to place yield sign with a stop sign at the intersection of Wesson and North Streets. There's quite a bit of discussion on that one. I did a review going back at least 5 years. I've done several reviews for that intersection, and there have been no crashes reported at that location, which is one of the warrants under the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for placement of a stop sign. So after discussion that included recent redesign of the intersection, it was made into more of a T intersection rather than the convoluted intersection that it was with the curve there. And the inability of installing stop signs to control traffic speed, motion was made to remove the existing yield sign, which kind of conflicts with the stop sign at that location, and place 2 dangerous intersection signs on Weston Road at the intersection of North Street. Motion was made, second, and passed 4-0, unanimous.
all right. Any questions on that one? I just want to make commentary. I walked that intersection quite a bit, and it's significantly better after the redesign.
Yes.
It's a real dangerous intersection.
There was discussion, people have talked about making a 3-way stop, which is dangerous, and, we discussed this before about people motorists coming up the hill during the winter time. If you stop there, it gets kind of slippery, even coming down, but the yield sign kind of conflicted with the stop sign that was already there. North Street ended, and you went on to Weston Street, and that was your through street at that location. So, based on traffic regulations, this we felt is the best course of action.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Makes sense.
No?
Comment. The chief and I talked about this a little bit earlier, and I understand where he's coming from. So I guess my comment would be more to the general public that we need to remember that when we're making a left-hand turn, you have to yield to the oncoming traffic who has the right of way.
Yeah, that was the thing. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
Fairly new.
Yeah, that was the thing. It's operator error, and here, I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of close calls, but there was no crash data to indicate that that intersection needed any special regulation besides the stop sign at the end of North Street.
Just to add, I think the other discussion that evening was the line of sight at that area.
Right.
There's a little bit of difficulty with that, so I know Paul Canori is aware.
Yes. Yeah, I think there was. They talked about doing some trimming.
Yep.
Keeping up with the trimming of the brush and whatnot near the intersection to allow for a longer line of sight at that location. Number 4 was a request from Scott Jordan for additional stop signs at Church Street, South Street, and the Grafton Common, as well as other traffic control devices or markings. After discussion about making piecemeal adjustments to the common area, a motion was made to recommend a comprehensive study of traffic flow and safety at the common. Motion was made, second, and passed 4-0. We also had additional discussion regarding signage, pedestrian safety in the common area, including the possible placement of user-activated flashing lights at the crosswalks for the three major crosswalks at 140, Millbury Street, and South Street. And once again, the comment always comes up: are there crashes there? Yes, there are. Most of them are due to operator error. The stop signs in front of the country store, in front of 1 Grafton Common, are there. It's traffic control, except for a light. You couldn't really add much of anything else. But what happens is people get impatient. They don't want to wait for the traffic. I see that every morning, and they take their chances. Most of the time they make it. Some of the times they don't. But there is traffic control there. The other accidents, a lot of the causes there are tractor trailer trucks that can't make the swing, around, or that once again following their GPS to turn around the common, and they take out a fence or a pole or whatever. And I think a lot of that too is inexperienced drivers driving these big rigs, because you see a lot of that now too. Newer people that need to probably go back for training in some of these areas and not follow GPS blindly as they do. So, but that's the recommendation. I think we have to have a study done. And although this particular request, number 4, didn't get so much into, the common on the other side where Country Store and Millbury Street are, and 1 Grafton Common, but that should be addressed. I think the only thing you could really do there would probably be put traffic signal, which could help or could hurt, because in a lot of intersections where there are lights, the big thing is people speed up. They see a yellow light, they want to make the yellow light at all costs. They speed up, light turns red. The operator coming from the other end is going through, thinking they have the right of way. Now you have a serious crash with higher speeds. So I think since I've been here now, we're looking probably 4 studies that have been done there. So I don't know if there's one that has been shelved recently.
I did ask about the last study that was done, and it was from 2012.
2012.
So that was before the redesign. They sort of cleaned up some of the markings and signage and all that kind of stuff. So it was before that. So if anybody on the board wants to pick that up as a recommendation, just get in touch and we can put it on an upcoming agenda.
Okay. That's it for this.
Terrific.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I lost where I was. I move the board vote to approve all of the recommendations from the Traffic Safety Committee as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Upton, aye.
Jefferson, I.
Fully aye.
The motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
And the only thing, I don't believe it was mentioned in the announcements, but
It was supposed to be, but I don't believe it was either. Go ahead, Chief.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Here comes the bus. But want to invite everybody to our National Night Out, annual National Night Out on Tuesday, August 1st from 5 to 8 p.m. Hopefully it'll be nice and we won't get rained out at the end like we did last year. Coming back from COVID and all that stuff, but plenty of, we'll have free food, free prizes, public safety vehicles, fire, police, SWAT team, motorcycles, and a few other things I hope to bring along. So I think we've all been to them every year, and we're hoping to do it better again this year. And we want to invite everybody down. Everything is free. I'm still waiting to see about the child ID kits through the Masons program. They're usually pretty good for that. So if residents have smaller children and they'd like to have them get fingerprints, photographs, dental records, they do all kinds of things, and they give all this information back to the parents to keep them safe. And hopefully, if it'll never be needed, but they have the information on their children if something goes wrong. So, but it's all out there. We'll be giving away free bike helmets, free gun locks, and a few other surprises too, hopefully.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jeffson.
Quickly. I love the National Night Out. I mean, we talk about it every year. I think it's one of our, most well-attended events, something that people look forward to. But I did want to follow up on those child ID kits. Those were the first real draw for our family when our kids were younger to really get involved in those National Night Outs. Was, you could keep updating those, and you guys were just giving them out, for free. It's a wonderful, job that you're doing with that. And
Thank you. Yeah, we hope, like I said, nobody ever has to use it, but it's there. It's there. So, and it's, I guess, the first Tuesday of the month too. And I know last year you did some rescheduling, so I don't know if you.
throw it
Got
out
anything
there.
else to throw out there, Chief?
We could do a live meeting in front of GCTV.
There you go. That would
Yeah.
be. That would be
Yeah, no, I believe we did. Didn't we skip last year?
Yeah.
Sounds like you just
we?
offered one less meeting for us in August.
Right.
I'm just trying to help.
Love it.
Always.
That's what I'm here for.
That's why we love you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you,
Take
Chief.
care.
All right, August 1st. Be there or be square. Next up, we have the water quality issues. Mr. Alamo, if you want to just kind of kick off the discussion.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this with this team and in this environment. I've done some due diligence on this. We'll back up and just talk a little bit about the why and talk about action and see what there's available opportunities for us to do. But as it relates to the why, it's becoming more clear to residents that live in the area. And also to, just in generally, you can see what's happening. There's some challenges with the water quality. So we saw some communication from the Grafton Water District that was relating to some information about some testing that didn't quite meet their specifications in April. Andy, Mr. Jefferson, and I hosted an Ask Me Anything discussion in late June, and some residents inquired about the status of the water quality. And in the recent weeks, this team has been receiving information around water quality issues, brown water, pictures, inquiries from people in the town. So the idea was probably to have some sort of a conversation and address that as a team. And just for a disclaimer, I think relative to action, I think this discussion would be the action. The reason I say that is because in my due diligence, I encountered some similar comments. I had no idea. I didn't know that. And so in that context, I feel like this discussion can help inform, educate, and enlighten some of us that didn't know some of the differences between this Grafton Water District, or the South Grafton Water District, and what that means to this team or to this board. And what it comes down to is this board does not have the authority or the jurisdiction. And that's the, oh, I didn't know that commentary that was happening across the last couple of weeks. But with that said, there's some things that it's good to discuss this and I think inform folks about the history of it so that they know. So I've talked a little bit about it with a bunch of folks, and one of them would be our esteemed town administrator. And I was asking and hoping for you, Evan, today to talk a little bit about the history of it, because when we look at what we can do, there's some things that we can do to direct them, maybe some of the action, not just this conversation, but also the natural course of business that you're the tip of the spear in the relationship and doing a fantastic job. And I think folks need to know what this all means relative to how they work, and then some of the problems that we've seen and some of the actions that they've taken to fix those problems. So I'll hand it to you if you don't mind.
Sure. And I'm going to just pause you right there for a second. I just want to be respectful of the fact that they're not here. So I think it's fine to bring up the, resident concerns, the, correspondence that we've got and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to be very deliberate in characterizing, what they've done and sort of,
Yes,
just
and
talking about them. So.
And right, that's a good segue. So before I start, I do want to acknowledge that the two folks at Grafton Water that are best able to speak to this, one is involved in a health issue with a family member, and I spoke to them earlier today, and the other one is out of state. So it wasn't just I don't want to come and deal with it. I don't believe that has anything to do with why they're not here tonight. So to go back, the state in 1984 had passed some legislation that allows water districts to form as a separate entity from a municipality, and they do that through what's called an enterprise fund, which means that the district is solely funded via the ratepayer. So that means that if you're not on public water and paying a public water bill, you're not paying into that system, which differs from most other intergovernmental actions that we take on a daily basis. Those acts were then amended in 1987 with the intent of just modernizing and putting in place a framework that is similar to municipal government. So it basically allowed them to form a mini municipality. And so the way the Grafton Water District works is there are 3 commissioners. Those 3 commissioners are elected officials, and they are elected by the ratepayer. So again, wholly separate from any election that we hold through our clerk's office or any of that. They have 3 commissioners. 1 is elected re-elected or runs for office each year. So it's a 3-year staggered system. They also have their own moderator and clerk, and they also operate just like town government in that they hold open meetings that have to be posted and open to the public. They have to be audited every year, same way that we do through DOR, Department of Revenue. And if a resident has a concern, obviously, and I'm not saying this because we don't want to hear it, I'm not saying it due to that, that limits, because they have their own framework, that limits the ability of this board to, or myself even, to have any input into that. So the way that we've operated is to try to keep as open a lane of communication with the water district, and also to offer assistance in any way that we can when there's bigger projects that impact large amounts of people. So in this particular case, if I can just roll right into that, what I'm hearing from Matt Pearson and Dave at the water, Dave Erickson at the water district, is that they had a failure in their E Street processing facility. They contract with a vendor that they've used for 30 years. They've had those parts on order since the failure occurred. They are now in and should be installed either by the end of this week or the middle of next week. And they're hoping that everything is back up and online. The other thing they did, which they have reported to me was marginally successful, is they started flushing last week. They flushed a large section of the problem area, and they reached back out to people that had called the office to see if quality had improved after the flushing, and according to their reports, they have. Keep in mind, all of this is secondhand because these are not town departments. The other piece that we have done,
Can I stop you just for 1 second?
Sure.
I was reading their memo that they have on their website, and I believe they made a note that once the parts are installed, it still may be 3 or 4 weeks before the transition is done. So I want to make sure, because they're not here, that we're not setting an expectation that everything's going to be fixed in a week or 2.
Okay,
Excuse me.
fair point.
We're having our discussion. I will absolutely give you some time after we have
I
our
appreciate
discussion.
that. Thank you.
So the only other thing I wanted to mention is that the town of Grafton has loaned a articulated loader with an operator, and I believe it's our backhoe, because I think our mini excavator isn't in yet, with an operator to help with the install and some other ancillary work around this project to help speed it along. So I think, Mr. Alamo, did I give a pretty good
You did,
overview?
and Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Of course.
you did, and that was the part where I think folks know that now more folks are beginning to know, well, wait a second, there's a difference in jurisdiction here, and that was eye-opening for me. It was enlightening. I'm a customer, so I should know that, and I'm glad I do now. There's also the piece about the East Street plant. That part meant that that pump wasn't working, so that meant that it put extra stress and pressure on the other 3 pump stations. So if you think about it in terms of a sports athlete, your leg, your arm, whatever, you're adding undue pressure on those other 3 pumps, which I'm anticipating, and this is me sort of surmising based on, good information, due diligence, that should help to improve the full operation of all four pumps. That's my guess. That's my assessment and a little bit of our discussion. We kind of agreed to that, although they are not here to verify that. I'm assuming that's what they're thinking. And that will be something that also helps a little bit too. So he's right though. Matt, our chairman is right. We can't speak on their behalf. Just like if something happens in my gas, I have to call Eversource. If something happens to my electric, I have to call National Grid. This board doesn't have jurisdiction over that. But the idea of having this discussion hopefully can help, compel things a little bit further and also inform.
Any of the board members have commentary?
I'll just quickly, I'm glad that, Mr. Chair, that you put this on the agenda because I certainly heard from a lot of people over the last number of weeks. I got a lot of pictures, encouraged them to send them in. And so I think if nothing else, at least that we are, listening, and it's great that the town actually, I didn't know that, we're lending this backhoe and hopefully that will help out. It's the only thing that probably we can do. But just for the folks to know that, this is an agenda item that this board agreed to put on here just to even simply have the discussion. So hopefully people know that we're listening, I guess.
Makes sense.
Mr. Chair, one more thing before you move
Mr.
on.
Brassard, sure.
The only other thing I failed to mention is that the town also, we have oversight over private drinking wells through our Board of Health. We don't have jurisdiction over public water supplies. And so if residents are looking for that information, you have to go through the Department of Environmental Protection at the state. Because I had a couple people ask me if the Board of Health could sample the water and test it, and it's not within our regulation to do so.
So who would they speak to?
Department, DEP,
DEP.
Department of Environmental Protection.
All right. Any other board discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Jefferson.
Yeah, I don't really have much new information to add other than to echo that it is incredibly frustrating to receive these correspondence and to see as much discussion as being had on this on social media and whatnot, and feel so powerless to be able to help the residents. We don't have any additional details or any questions that we can really ask at this point. I can't see any of these explanations leaving me with a sense of anything other than they need to do better. We can't, it's just been an ongoing issue that we hear about so often. I just think the water districts need to do better.
Okay. Any other discussion? So before we, just 1 second, before we have residents input into our meeting, does the board want to take any action? I think we've got an open invite to the water district to come into one of our meetings. I do want to just give them an opportunity to respond to this meeting and the commentary that we have here. So I guess to the water district, you're more than welcome to any of our upcoming meetings. If you want to attend and address this at the select board meeting, you're more than welcome. Mr. Jefferson.
Follow-up question. Yes, because I would very much enjoy for them to be here and give them the opportunity to have a platform to do additional outreach and answer questions. I do not want to open a can of worms for the town administrator's office, and it's possible, we could have the discussion and everybody could tell us it's an overstep. Is it something that we want to consider trying to find, like do bottled water drop-offs or something like that to provide clean water to residents who are overly concerned? And I know there are definitely monetary and logistical issues, and it's a lot, and it's not our responsibility, but it's the only thing I can think of that we could possibly control to help residents. So I don't know if there's an appetite amongst us for even a discussion about that, or if Evan wants to shoot holes in that as to why it's a terrible idea. Throwing it out.
Mr. Brassard, over to you.
That's the most loaded segue I've ever heard. No, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that, I'd want to drill down with the water department a little bit further, because cloudy water, discolored water is not the same as non-potable water. Unsafe water, there's no boil order in place that I'm aware of. But I'm happy to have that conversation with them and see if that's something that would be beneficial. The other component of that is just, resident comfort, let's say, people that don't want to. Even though it's deemed safe, they might not be comfortable with believing that it is safe.
Yeah,
Because I
having
think
seen some of the colors in there, it's,
human nature is, brown water is probably not great.
even if I was told it was safe, I would not be comfortable with some of those things in my drinking water.
Yeah, so, we could certainly look at that, or even having some kind of a pickup. I don't know that we logistically have enough folks to do some kind of drop-off routine, or program, rather than routine, I don't know why I said that. But we can certainly, have water available at the municipal center or somewhere else, that's deemed a good place to have as a pickup location.
Okay.
Should the board choose
Right.
to want to take that action.
Yeah, so that's the topic of discussion now. Any thoughts on that?
It's a great idea.
I'll drive them around. Happy to do it.
Give you a cruiser.
I got it.
You always
That's
take
cool.
the cruiser when it's up.
I'll take the cruiser, man.
So,
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Mead.
Yes, so, I know we have this issue down on East Street, and I know that this is is not a town department. And I really believe that if we have a water issue and we have a water quality issue, it's solely on the Grafton Water District. And that the town administrator should be contacting the Grafton Water District and having discussion with them about supplying water, just as they do in many other municipalities, for the residents if that's an issue. I'll tell you what my concern is. From what I've read, this issue is isolated to a neighborhood. And is that correct?
It's a pretty big neighborhood, though.
It's a
But
big
it's a
neighborhood. I understand it's a big neighborhood, but the water line from East Street to down on Pleasant Street at Power Line or those places, it's a long way. That's a long, long way. I think what Evan should do is have a conversation with the water district and be more concerned about something that's actually happening in that area, and that's very possible. So, rusty water is not going to come from the East Street pump and travel all the way down to Pleasant Street and affect one small neighborhood. It's going to affect everybody on that line. So I just think that this is as Mark said, this is a water district issue. It's not our issue. I think that we can talk to the water district and say, look, we want you to provide water to these people. I don't think that the town should be doing this. I think that the district should be doing this, not us. But I do think that there's another issue somewhere that needs to be resolved, not only East Street. So I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mead. I'll just make a couple of comments. I agree with what Ray said in terms of this is a water district issue to deal with, but I don't see any reason that they couldn't partner with the town. For example, if they wanted to, use the municipal center to have the pickup here, that sort of stuff. I think I'd be in strong favor of that, with a recommendation that the water district organize that and basically bring a program to the town to assist with if they need it. And what I'm hearing is we want a continued I don't know, regular dialogue with the water district, and hopefully maybe at our next meeting we can just get an update on what their response is, when they hear the commentary. Any additional discussion, Mr. Jefferson?
Just following up on your comment and to Mr. Mead's point, yes, ideally I would hope that the water district would handle the distribution and funding the water supplies. It was just if they don't, or they're completely inflexible, then bringing it on our side. I think it would need to be done quickly, though, if we're talking about 3 or 4 weeks potentially. We'll say 4 weeks, maybe 5, until East Street's back up online and some of these issues start to go away. It's not an event that can drag on. It needs to be dealt with, as close to immediately as we can. So, just need to make sure they're, getting boots on the ground quickly.
Sure, makes sense to me. Any other commentary? All right, if it's all right, we have a number of people who showed up to the meeting. Come on up. Yes, absolutely. Come on up.
Here?
If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us what your address is,
I'd
that'd
be happy to.
great.
My name is Kathleen Nichols. I live at 14 Sunrise. And just as I live there, I'd like to clear up a couple things that I think you've gotten maybe a little bit off.
Okay.
One is that the East Street well has not been down for years. We've had the water quality issue for years, on and off. Personally, I believe that they started to be more prevalent when the Powerline well, Trinity Avenue well, went online. When they dug that. Then I started noticing that from time to time there would be some brown water. I think when the Trinity well operates, that introduces, it may, I don't know the answer to this. This is an answer I'm looking for. Does it introduce the soot into the system? I don't know. I don't know if they are required to filter the water as it comes out of the well. I don't know. But there is definitely times when it is god awful for some of these people. It does seem to be that people that are on a couple of streets that are closer to that wellhead on Trinity are having almost daily occurrences of this. Other people in the neighborhood might say, I've had it once a year. I've had it once a quarter. I usually get it once a quarter, maybe. But I want you to understand, when this happens, it's as if I walked out to my garden and got a can full of dirt and dumped it into a glass of water. It is that bad.
It's the color of the desk that she's sitting at.
It is the color of this desk. And when it comes out into your toilets, it is as if somebody took a cup of dirt and stuck it in the bottom of your toilet. And it's coming out into, there was a woman who posted a picture of a pitcher, and it would look like dark coffee. So I personally haven't suffered the way these people have. I want you to consider that this is going into people's water heaters, their washing machines, their children. And I also would ask, I think you guys are, I don't want to dump on Grafton Water District either. You know, they're, I hope, decent and wonderful people who are trying to do a good job. There may be two parallel issues going on here. The East Street well might be one issue, so they have to bring the Trinity well up and to do more. But where is this stuff coming from in the system? That's the problem. If it were not in the system, we wouldn't be having this problem. And we're looking into getting our water tested, having a water filtration system put in. Other people are doing it. This is a cost that's going into these people's budgets when they have small children to take care of and limited budgets. No one has suggested to them that maybe they can get some help from somebody. I would be very happy if there was any kind of an opportunity to have a discussion group that is an ongoing discussion group with somebody in the town, helping the residents to say, okay, I'm going to put you in touch with this person. This person can answer that question. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help to find people for you to answer these questions. We understand it's not your job to tell them what to do, but we're asking for protection. We're asking for children not to be put into a position of having to go in and take a bath and finding this kind of water that they're sitting in. We don't know what's in that water. And I don't think the Grafton Water District knows what's in that water either. And it's one thing if one person calls a week, or if you get a bunch of calls. I just started recently asking people on our Sunrise Facebook page to tell us when this happens so that we could find out how prevalent it was. And it's a lot more prevalent than people realized. But as I said, it is more concentrated to certain areas than others. I think it's because they are near a flow, but I'm only guessing. So we're just asking, maybe you can help to guide us to the right people who can answer some of these questions. And with the help of the Grafton Water District and some assistance from some other people, solve this problem. I don't want to demonize anybody. I just want to get the problem solved.
Thank you. And we definitely want to keep a good relationship with them. And I think I'm keen to give them an opportunity to respond to this. But, you know, we're on it. We
Thank
hear
you.
the complaints. We see the complaints. We've seen lots of pictures, lots of commentary about, whole filtration systems going into homes, and all of that. But I do just want to be respectful of the fact that
They're not here
they're not here
to defend
and
themselves.
they can't. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else that you wanted
No,
to
that's
bring
it.
up? Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that somebody represented our neighborhood here at this discussion.
Absolutely. No, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Brasser,
Thank you for coming in.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to speak to one thing. So it appears from, I don't want to mischaracterize the East Street problem. So the East Street well being down, this is how I've come to understand, not that I'm a hydrologist or anything like that.
I know none of us are.
Right. But, so because the East Street well is down, they're running the Trinity well and the Follett well. And because we're not at water capacity, sometimes those wells need to be run at the same time. Normally, they're staggered, so that one well is running at a time. So when the two wells are running simultaneously, it causes cavitation in the lines, which then stirs up things that are in the line.
In the line where?
Everywhere.
Underneath the earth or?
No, in the actual water pipe. So, and it's gross, I know, but this is a reality of it. And you'll see this a lot. Ray can probably attest to this too. After a fire where they draw a lot of water out of a hydrant, that neighborhood in that general area will have rusty, discolored water for a short period of time until that water, the part of the water that's been agitated is moved outside of the line, which is actually going through people's houses. So a lot of times you'd see a notice that says run cold water until it's clear. And that's so that you don't bring anything into your hot water heater, right? So there is quite a bit of buildup inside of these pipes because they're metal pipes. So they create rust and iron and all other things. So it appears that the two wells running simultaneously is the major cause, and that East Street would then allow them to stagger. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Well, may I just say that
Oh, absolutely.
flushing the hydrants does seem to be very helpful.
Mhm.
Perhaps they could do it on a more frequent basis.
Yep.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
The other thing that I just remembered that I wanted to mention is they said it was very isolated. When I ask other people from other neighborhoods, they're starting to say, yeah, I get it too. So I'm not totally sure that it's isolated to my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It may be that there is more going on than we're aware of.
Fair enough.
So I
Yeah.
just want
Sure.
that to be left out there as an open question.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think that's
Thank you. I
reflected
appreciate your idea about the water.
that's definitely reflected in the correspondence. There's a number of, Cheryl Drive, Power Line, Sunrise.
Well, I call my neighborhood Cheryl Powerline. It's Frankie Knowles' neighborhood.
It's a big area, though.
It is.
It is. Just in the Sunrise Loop, there's about 75 homes. So we're talking hundreds of people here.
Yep.
And when you think about it, that's a lot of income for the Grafton Water District. So I think that some of these people are starting to feel pretty pinched about the fact that they're running their water more often to flush it, which causes them a higher bill. And you should see people's washers. You don't want that water in your washer. And when you think about it, how long is that washer gonna last? At what point in time do they get a little relief from what's going on here and not have to worry about replacing these things on their own budget? So. Okay, thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Does anybody else have any
It's
commentary?
been a
Yeah,
trip.
come on up.
Thank you for being calm and respectful too.
Lynn Hitchings, 60 Sunrise Ave. I actually do have pictures of my washer if you'd like to see them, which happened yesterday, which was after they flushed. And I guess in a previous email to somebody, they said that the flushing would not work, but they flushed the hydrants anyway, and it obviously didn't work. So I did email yesterday to the water department and asked them, showed them a picture of my washing machine. I had to fill that washer 4 times before I could do a load of dark clothes. So that's filling my washer, and then it's going into the sewer. So I'm being double charged for water. I can't use that. When I asked them if this was safe to drink and bathe in, they told me yes. Would you drink that? I wouldn't.
No?
Definitely.
And it's in the email. Yes, it's safe. So this is not something that's just been happening in the last week. You know, I would say it's been a good 2 months. And then didn't they have some kind of bacteria or something in April? They send out a postcard a month and a half later after people have been bathing and drinking and cooking in this water. I don't think that they're being responsible. I think they're sort of ignoring the problem. And I thank you for listening to us. But where do we go from here? Like, who is above the Grafton Water District?
They are their own municipality.
Well,
DEP.
ask DEP.
DEP.
The DEP. So that's who we go to next.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, Evan corrected me on that yesterday, because I was thinking Board of Health for testing, but in fact it's DEP. So
Not the DPU.
no,
No,
like
that's
Department of
Public Utilities.
Department of
the
Environmental
yeah.
Protection.
Correct.
Okay.
And I can look into that a little bit.
If you
I mean, it
Googled
seems
the-
like they don't answer to anybody, that they just, oh yeah, we had some contamination, now we'll send out a postcard a month and a half later. That's irresponsible. And it's not just happening in our neighborhood. My daughter lives off Snow Road, her water's yellow.
Yeah, I think that speaks to Ray's point that it's a long
Yeah.
way that it goes. So
Maybe there's some kind of
people
leak in the,
around, yeah.
in the pipe along the way. Also, my question is, are they gonna be refunding us? I mean,
can't answer that.
flushing toilets,
Yep.
20 times a day, running water. Tried to give my grandson a bath the other day. Couldn't. Because, he's 18 months old. I'm not sticking him in this water. And I can't even imagine the parents that live in the neighborhood with little kids who have to bathe their kids every day in that.
It's an embarrassment.
So can
We
I?
should not be living like we're a third world country that doesn't have clean water.
Mr. Brasser.
So, I mean, has anyone attended a water department meeting? Is that what?
I didn't know that they had them.
Yeah, we don't even know they had the meeting.
So
My
if you go on,
husband informed
if you-
me that they have them at
if you go on,
4:30 in the afternoon.
yeah.
So very convenient for people who work.
Well, it's probably convenient for the people that ran for the office would be my
Yeah.
guess. But because it's right at the end of everyone's shift.
Mm-hmm.
So right on their website, it gives you the times and dates. You can call there for an updated list. And then you can go there and actually talk to the elected commissioners who were elected by the ratepayers, like I said earlier, and give them direct feedback and pictures and
Do you
They
feel that
have the pictures. I
they
sent my
haven't-
pictures.
For all the stuff that has been sent to them and all of the calls that they've gotten, can you imagine that they don't know that this is happening?
I would say, being a person that works for elected boards, I would say that getting a picture on an email is different than having a person sit in a room with you.
Or
But they know it's
glass of the
happening.
water that-
I'm not saying they don't. I mean, they have notices about it on their website, but it's different to have somebody sitting across from you and showing you
Mm-hmm.
pictures of their water than an email that comes through. So I would suggest two things. If you're concerned about water quality, DEP is your avenue. If you're concerned about infrastructure, your first step is probably the Grafton Water District public meeting and talk to the elected commissioners about what's happening in your neighborhood and all the other things that you just discussed, firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And see where
Yeah,
that
because
gets
it's
you.
not just our neighborhood. I'm on one side of town, my daughter's on the other side of town, and she has yellow water.
And time-wise, I'm concerned that I don't want this to drag on forever.
Mm.
I think we're all to the boiling point of saying
Mhm.
enough is enough.
And
it's
as
wonderful to say, geez, you can install a filter system. Sure.
Why should we
It's
pay
like
for
$4 to
it?
$5 to get one that'll take care of this.
and somebody did install one, and 3 days later, their water filter was like
That's
black.
right.
Send
So
me the picture,
You
yeah.
can't
Yep.
expect people to be replacing water filters every single week and not call
or
the
water
system
heaters
out.
or washing machines. That water is washing our dishes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think
Ms. Foley.
to Evan's point, those are the stars I made for myself, is check out the H2O when the water district meetings are, who your elected officials are in their capacities there, and then the DEP in terms of water quality if you wanted to try to get testing and whatnot. But I think that seeing when they're meeting, it doesn't help today, but going to those meetings going forward.
And they don't offer free tests.
I don't know
The
about
water
that, but
district.
I don't know.
No, I have no idea
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not something we.
Will they be looking to see if their lines, maybe something's wrong with their lines?
So I have not had conversation with them
I mean,
about
they'll,
that.
they'll have to answer those questions,
Right.
unfortunately.
All right. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you
We
so much.
Thank you for your
appreciate-
time.
We appreciate that you're
Absolutely.
trying to.
You want to talk
help
about
us in
sewer
whatever
pipes?
way you
I'm your
can.
guy, but
Absolutely. Did you want to come up? You know, you're good. Okay. Sir?
Almost.
Okay. Is there anybody on Zoom?
You have no hands on Zoom.
Okay.
A lot of them are at the planning board.
Yeah.
Got it.
I do have a comment.
Sure, come on up, please.
I'm Gordon Nichols, and I've been in town forever. So I think Evan mentioned this, and it was kind of in passing, and it really is key to what all this is about. Nobody knows what's in the water. Nobody's had it tested. And I think if we could use that as a lever to get the Grafton Water District to A, pay attention to us, and B, figure out what the hell's going wrong, and then C, fix it, that would be great. So if we can get the DEP in here and test this water to find out what exactly is in it, and do it all over town. You know, don't just take our neighborhood or East, we didn't even know East Street was having a problem. So if we could get them in here and do some significant testing, and then come back to you guys and say, this is what we found. Now you've got a way to influence the Grafton Water District, or we'll get the state to do it. And I understand everything I've heard here is you are powerless to get them to do anything, but the state sure as heck isn't. So if that's the way they want to play this, we can do that.
So, I just want to be careful, that the select board doesn't end up as a proxy for complaints. I think that's a bad way to address this. Having said that, we're very happy to get resident concerns in our correspondence. And I do encourage people to continue, with their concerns, so that we can hear them and, hopefully, as things resolve, which I hope they will, as these infrastructure issues resolve over the next month or two, it would be good to hear the other side of it too, which is, hey, we're not seeing this anymore. It seems like things are better. Hopefully that's the direction that it goes in, but
I think you have to look at it like we did in the days of COVID. And that is, everybody would tune into the morning news to find out what are the numbers today. How many deaths, how many new cases. We need something like that for the water in town, not just to find out what's going on and then hopefully fix it, but to give us an indicator of what's the health of the Grafton public water over time. Chart it so you can see what's going on,
so
because you don't know what's going on
they're,
right now.
well, they're held to pretty stringent standards in terms of water quality
Mhm.
by the state. So that's not, yeah,
I can speak to that just a little bit.
go for it.
If you go on graftonwaterdistrict.org, they have all their water quality testing going back a ways. Let's say 2020 is like the oldest thing I've got here. But there is some data for residents to check out. I'm not saying it's the magic bullet or it's going to solve all the concerns that you're raising here, but there is a fair amount of data that they have provided online.
Okay.
You know,
and-
it just occurred to me, this water's also in our schools. I'm guessing that the school water is not supplied by a well. So let's make sure that we're not feeding this stuff into our school children. And the idea of testing, they're saying that all of their testing is coming out wonderful. When it has mud in it, don't tell me that's wonderful.
I don't think anybody said wonderful. But they are testing.
Well, the Grafton Water District may be saying that their tests are fine.
Yeah, they say the water's usable. You can drink it, you can bathe in it. You want to bathe in water that looks like this? I mean, really? So it would be great if we could get somebody from either the DEP or some other organization in the state that has the ability to do this testing and give us a regular report. I'm not saying weekly, but maybe a monthly report, and just keep it going. And I would personally believe something coming from the state before I would believe what's coming from the Grafton Water District right now. Not because that they're trying to do something shady, but they tell us this stuff is great to use and it looks like the top of this desk.
Sure.
So do I believe them? How would you? You know?
Well, so I think the advice stands that if you want to, if you're concerned about water quality, DEP is the place to go. So if
where
you've
we're
got a
going.
neighborhood group,
Where we're going.
then I would go right to DEP and express your concerns
Okay,
for sure.
thanks for listening.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
that ultimately, our welfare is your concern. And we're all just gonna work together to solve this.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on, we are at the intermunicipal agreement for animal control.
So this is just the re-up from what we do annually. No deviation from what we did in years past. This is our shared agreement with the town of Westboro.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Did any of the percentages in terms of our contributions change? Do you know? I'm not sure what that's based
The cost went up marginally, which was already accounted for in the budget.
Okay.
The percentages remain the same.
Got it.
That's as far as the breakdown between the towns.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to extend the intermunicipal agreement for animal control, animal inspector services amongst the towns of Westboro, Grafton, and Shrewsbury for a one-year period ending June 30th, 2024.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Mr. Mead.
Mead eye.
LMOI.
Upton, aye.
Jefferson, I.
Fully aye.
Motion carries. All right. Next up, we have, as a new business item, the appointment policy. Ms. Foley, I'm going to let you run with that.
Yeah, so thank you for putting it on the agenda. You know, I've been doing some looking at the website in addition to the, you know, the boards and committees info center. And I guess I'm just looking to speak to the board about potentially trying to look at cleaning all of it up a little more. So I think that, you know, the whole appointment process was looked at a number of years ago. And again, last year in September thereabouts, we signed the policy that's included in the packet. But more looking at, not so much the policy, maybe there's some tweaks there, but more just aligning, like, so for example, today on the website, I'm glad to see on the front page on those little streamers below, there is something about current openings. Whereas before I felt it took me, a while to try to find where this thing was. But then when I go over to where I assume is the gold standard is over to that other page, the boards and committees info center, or perhaps that could be the gold standard. I don't know if it is right now or not, but it doesn't align necessarily with what's on the website and then maybe even what was announced here tonight. And then do we really post that? You go ahead.
Just,
Yep.
there's something that
Mr.
occurred to
President.
me, sorry,
That's okay.
Mr. Chair.
Just saying.
Something occurred to me after we spoke yesterday, and so the opening center that we were just talking about, what was it called again? Sorry.
The vacancy center.
Vacancy center. We don't control that.
Well, and that was another thing I was wondering, and that's
Yes.
not clear to me, is that, there's one entity that might have
Correct.
access to this, some of it. There might be another entity that might have access to some of it. And at the end of the day, go ahead, finish.
So
Jim.
that's handled by the town clerk's office.
Yep.
We don't have access to that. With some of the recent.
So which one is that? The
Vacancy center.
which is boards and, okay, yep.
So there is potential with some of the changes coming down the pike to integrate that better into our website. And how that looks and how that operates. We just don't have the ability to do it today.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that one piece. I don't want to derail
Yep.
everything you're thinking of.
So long story short, there's just discrepancies.
Okay.
We're trying to get people to get involved, be engaged. Actually, just at that master plan meeting that I went to just for a short time before this, a gentleman said, I find out about things after the fact in terms of committees and whatnot still. So, I know that we're doing our best. There's the little ticker on the front now, but again, it's not consistent with what's over at another spot. And how do you access, and if you're not looking online, is it up here somewhere? Is it posted anywhere? Maybe yes and maybe no. Yeah.
It should all be posted in the lobby.
It is all. There's
Okay.
one of the clipboard style things. There's one for committee vacancies.
Okay. So I just wondered if I'm willing to, with the help of others, obviously, just try to clean it up. Generally. I don't know which one's right? Folks don't know which one is correct. We go over to the boards and committees info center. It's different information than what might be here and then what might be there. And if there's a lag or we're not integrated, then maybe we can make sure that our website is the gold standard, right? Like, I don't even know which one is.
So William, I think you are the SME for the town's website.
You know, I'm telling you that.
I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna.
Subject
Subject
matter
matter
expert.
Oh, okay. I was gonna choose to be offended, but
No, it's a compliment.
so just speaking in generalities, the homepage that you see when you go to grafton-ma.gov, that's going to be the most current with vacancies, because whenever there's something, we put out that big master sheet of current vacancies. That's the current information. If there's a resignation and we need to publicize that, that's going to go on the homepage, and we update that very frequently. The vacancy portal is, as Evan said, the purview of the clerk's office. I think they're doing their best. They're a little short-staffed right now. I know that when they are fully staffed, Candy does a good job of keeping that current, and I think that probably goes a long way in why it's a little out of date. But that is entirely their bailiwick.
Is there a way to, partner with the clerk's office to just have one place so that they would refer to the town for something like that?
So my understanding is that was the original purpose of the vacancy center, was that's going to be the one place that you go. So if you go to the boards and committees individual pages, the select board page, the Affordable Housing Trust, that little table you see is actually referencing the vacancy center. So
Okay.
if there's a change made to the vacancy center, it automatically updates that page. and I think that we're just a little out of step there.
So for example, on this, like the town website one, that registrars, the Board of Registrars isn't on there, that opening. And I feel like there was another one today that I knew that was an opening that isn't on there.
That isn't on the homepage or on the
On
vacancy center.
the website.
Okay.
Which again, it's just an example. Another thing, another example would be, the term limits or the terms. Again, that's not here, that's over in that other site. And for example, like Affordable Housing Trust, there were no terms prior to June. Now there are, so that's great. But little things like that, I just think that there's room for cleaning up, in my opinion. I'm happy to try to, look at it in more detail. I've been looking at it a little bit piecemeal and taking notes, and I understand there's different entities, but just, I think over on the other side, which isn't you guys, the appointing authority might be incorrect on a couple of them as well. So things like that.
Okay. Any discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, there's a couple of things here and I agree with updating, having everything updated and in alignment with reality. So whatever terms there are for whoever's serving, it should be updated on, on the site, and that makes sense. The other piece that you were talking about, Anne Marie, is the people don't know about it, and that's a tough one. Maybe we do need that sign. It's just tough to. I think there are good faith efforts to try to get that information out to people. I mean, I try to do it. Everybody tries to get the information out, but it's hard. So.
And that's part of what I'm trying to tackle.
Just really quick, it's hard. It's not a hard thing to do. It's just hard to actually get that message out to residents. And when I hear that, I heard the same thing. The guy said, "I don't know how to. I only hear afterwards. I don't know what's going on," and that's fair. But I mean, what else can we do? And I'm for helping out with some kind of a solution. But so there's a couple things. One, updating the things on the site. The other thing is sharing that information with people. And those are two different discussions. And then the third is another discussion, which is the appointment policies. I think we blended the two items here a little bit. But I'm open for any of it. And in particular, on the website stuff, maybe we can put together a small group of people to just take a look at it if Ms. Foley wants to do it herself. Because everybody's shorthanded and not everybody can do all this work. But anything that helps bring some progress, I'm for supporting in every way. But it's going to be tough to get that word out.
So I'll just comment that any board member be doing sort of updates on the website as a part of town operations.
I don't.
Bad idea.
Oh, I'm not updating the website. Trust me.
We don't do that.
I was hinting, so I apologize, Mr. Chair.
No, I'm simply sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, go for it.
Almost doing the work of going through, looking at all the committees, trying to sort out how it should look. Perhaps this is the gold standard, although I see the registrars isn't on there. So it just makes me, whenever there's one missing somewhere, you wonder.
I want to point out we don't do registrars.
Okay.
That's not our. I realize that it should be on there, but the oversight of those vacancies is not in our office that controls our side of the website.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like we've got a couple of key individuals. We have somebody in the clerk's office, and we've got William, is what I'm hearing. I think we've articulated some of the issues and concerns. My suggestion would be to just bring this up in a future meeting, and ask for a response to this and some additional discussion based on some options.
If I
Mr.
may.
Professor.
So I think one of the other things that has been helpful for us, when I say us, I mean William, and by helpful, I don't know, I didn't ask him, is when you find something, just shoot it over in an email, because I think I don't want to lose sight of the amount of incorrect information that we've cleaned up in, say, the past, 6 months, because it's been an immense amount of term limits aren't right, the appointing authorities, there's still that stuff out there, but it even in our effort to get the information into a more usable form, it's still a pretty sprawling amount of information. And we also have individual departments that are tweaking their own domains, which is best practice and it's how we're going to continue to do it. But we don't see every single, that's not Will's only job. So if you come across any of it, just shoot it to us, and no, not to me, because I don't know how to do it, and I'm gonna mess it up. Shoot it to William, and we're happy to make those corrections. I think that we are looking forward to, and we're not dumping on the clerk's office. We're looking forward to the clerk's office being back up to full staff, and also integrated into the organizational hierarchy, so that maybe we can eliminate some of these the dualities that we know exist and find challenging as well. We just literally can't even log in to fix it.
Right. Okay.
And I
Is that-
just want to make one other comment. The various boards and committees really want a level of autonomy with the content that shows up on their part of the website. So, and there are some fairly independent boards and committees in town that they enjoy operating like that, and they're actually separate from anything that would fall under the purview of the TA's office or municipal center operations. So that we're going to see little pockets of different people managing information. That's not to say that we can't improve what's up there right now, but we're always going to see a little bit of distributed management of the content, I suppose.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jefferson.
I'm always a proponent of an extra set of eyes on things. I don't think it generally hurts. I'm wondering if, as Ms. Foley offered to take part in this, if it's a worthwhile endeavor to have her do an audit of sorts of some of those things, but maybe to bring them back for a future discussion as an additional layer of outreach and education as much as we can for the public, so that when you come back with a question, as we just had with the registrar, for example, there's immediate clarity for everybody. And it's also, always hope for big numbers in our viewership and that people are ingesting this information, but it's just another opportunity for us to get that information out there and potentially clear up any misconceptions.
Sure.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, my intent is not to go into the website and do anything, as William and Evan know.
We already
That was
talked.
Mr.
You're not
Allen.
gonna have
I think,
access to
yeah,
anything
Mr. Chair, I
that
think
website.
that's referring to me at that.
Don't worry
to
about
me.
it. None of you are going to get any kind of administrative rights.
I know my strengths.
Don't worry about that.
I know my strengths and I know
just-
my weaknesses fully.
Maybe not soon right away, but
Yeah.
maybe someday.
No, that's not of any interest to me whatsoever. I know who to call in.
That's right.
So I'm good at delegating. And additionally, no interest in getting involved in the boards and what their openings, how many openings they want, etc. It's truly just the information that I can gather and other folks are gathering online. There's disparities, and then that leads to, well, what's the right answer? I don't know what the right answer. And I just learned, say in June. So Finance Committee, I know it's always been a different entity. It was town clerk for many, many years. But how is it posted, and why is it consistent with what we do? Is it not? And just like those little things that are crystal clear. Board of Registers, now we know, like you said. So, just almost an audit, like you said, or an inventory.
Yep. Mr.
Like
Chair,
this.
the end game
Nothing
makes
to do
total
with
sense.
Going online.
Your end game makes total sense, because in the end, you're going to get more people that are probably looking at our website to see what's available. They're exploring their curiosity, and that's what your end game is probably try to attract more people to apply for these positions in the boards and committees and help out, because we need it.
Great, that's all I was looking for.
Great. Do we want any separate discussion around the policy? Is there anything specific you want to bring up?
No,
Okay.
I think I had said not to put anything in. I think Amber put the policy in, which was good, just to revisit it.
Sure.
But it was more about what I discussed. Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Just real quick to piggyback off Evan, I do legitimately like it when people point out mistakes on the website to me. It gives me a chance to go in and fix things that I might only look at once a year. So if you see anything, don't hesitate. Send it along. I don't want to conjure him, so I'm not going to name names, but there are certain individuals in town who are great at finding things, and it just helps us make the website better.
Got it. So, and I'll just say, every time I've pointed something out, Williams, responded within a day, that he'd go check it out, it's updated, and, so it's, very quick to make those kind of minor, changes where they're available for us to change on our side.
And Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
one more thing, it's nuts. I wasn't even really thinking errors as much as which is correct. Is it that there's 2 openings on this board and or the dates and whatnot, or is it what's over there? So
Confusing enough. We don't
Yeah.
need to complicate it.
yeah.
Okay. All right, we're on to correspondence.
Well, what about the
Oh,
municipal
sorry.
fees and
One last one
website?
for Evan.
That's me.
Oh, yeah. Okay, oh, wait, sorry. I just gonna skip a bunch of stuff. All right,
Cool
so
with it.
we have, authorizing the town administrator.
Yeah, this is about municipal and school department permitting fees. So Grafton does not have an exemption for municipal and or school department projects from the building process, right? Pulling permits, having inspections, all of the rest of it. There's also no language that deals with fees. Now, realistically, if you're putting in a customer service window in the municipal center, I'm not going to assess a fee, correct? But the school department traditionally will need to pull a permit for this exact project we're talking about is a roof. Then they have to come to the town and say, can we be exempted from the fee associated with the building permit, which then has to come before the select board to be waived. I can't imagine a situation where the select board doesn't want to waive that fee. That's all our taxpayer money that we've just allocated to pay these, to do the work. Why would we then collect a fee into the other side of the house? So my thinking was just that the board could delegate the authority to waive fees for the school department and the municipal departments, without having to come before the select board each time.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Allen?
Waive fees, but not the process, not
Oh, no,
permits.
no. The rest of it's all state code. We're still gonna do it and make sure everybody's safe. It's just the payment side of it.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Mead?
So Evan, I don't have a problem with that, for municipal projects up to a certain amount. If we're gonna put an addition on a school, and we hire our general contractor and it goes out to bid, we're not gonna waive a fee, for a general contractor.
So I
So
would,
that's in their bids. So, I would like to see a limit. So if it's $50,000 worth of work or it's $100,000 worth of work and, we're not going to have a fee, that's fine with me. But, we're not going to build a $7 million school and not have a fee for a building permit.
You can build a school for $7 million? Wow.
Oh, they're a really, Matt,
Can we
a
have
really,
3 or
really
4 of them?
small one.
Like a one
A really,
shelter.
really small one.
so the thing in Grafton, if you were doing a school or an addition, you would have to go to third-party review.
Right.
So we're not even doing our own inspections in that case.
Right. So what's that level, Evan, that you would be comfortable with, that we're not going to go to third party reviews or exempt any project that requires a third party review.
Right. Yeah, sure. So like the school department roof is, I think it's a $250,000 project. And, it's stamped, it's controlled construction, right? It's engineered, purview, all the rest of it. We're literally just checking a box. And actually Bob's the one that brought this to my attention, that why are we having any fee associated with any of this? So, I mean, you could certainly set an amount and exempt anything that's going to third party. Doesn't however the board would like to do it. I just was trying to streamline process and not have to, the board's meeting in 2 weeks and then, all of the stuff we do to lessen the red tape, because it's just, mostly it's the school department that we're talking about. Try to make things better for Dr. Cummings.
Absolutely.
Mr.
Yep.
Chair?
Mr. Mead?
So So I don't have a problem with it, and I don't have a problem if we exempt all projects that does not require outside third-party reviews. And then just leave it at that, so that the town administrator, well, we're gonna, it's not really the town administrator approving this, it's gonna be, we're gonna exempt those projects from building permit fees that don't require a third-party review. That's pretty much it.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question. So, for example, on that $250,000 project, how much would that fee have been? You have any idea?
I did not look at that ahead of time, and
Yeah,
it's
but-
different for, I'm not gonna guess.
Yeah.
Because it's different for residential versus commercial versus the use and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I'd rather the school department, in this case, have more money to complete the project than to shift from one side of the pot to the other side of the pot, because realistically, the project we're talking about right now, we funded through our capital plan. So really what you would be doing is giving the school money. The school would then be paying us. It would close to the general fund and become part of the capital plan again.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So like that's not what we're trying to achieve here.
I'm just curious. Is it
Yeah.
hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars?
Oh, thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would have a concern about a blanket exemption, only because, and I don't have an example, but there could be a circumstance that we can't this evening anticipate in the future, where an exemption might not be appropriate. And again, I don't have an example for that. So my thinking is, we can, basically, delegate the board's authority to waive permit fees for those municipal projects, unless there's going to be a third-party review. And that leaves it in Evan's hands. He can, the process will be more efficient. But if we do run into a circumstance where it's appropriate to charge a fee, then he's got the ability to do that without having to, I don't know, come back to the board and ask to not follow the exemption, I guess. I'm not sure how that would work.
So here's one other belt and suspenders approach maybe. You delegate the authority for me to waive the fees. However, the board needs to be notified via memo in correspondence that waiver occurred.
Okay.
That way there you have some finger on the pulse, and it's not really a big lift for us to do that. Just
How's the board feel about that?
I feel fine about it. Anything to make it easier or more efficient.
thank you.
All right. Any other commentary?
So if I'm understanding correctly, that we're still going to, that this is purely for ones that do not require the outside third-party review, because we're still going to, okay. So I'm including that in the motion, in addition to, you would also notify the board via memo about waivers.
Correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to authorize the town administrator to waive any permitting fees for municipal and school department projects that do not require an outside third-party review. In addition, the town administrator will notify the board via memo about such waivers.
Second.
I have motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Off aye.
Jefferson, I.
Foley, aye.
The motion carries. All right.
Just a quick question.
Of course.
Amber gets this off of the tape, does she?
Oh yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
It's a difficult process. I did that for affordable housing for a couple of meetings, and it's really tedious.
She's really good at it. You just watch her sit there like,
Okay. Because I have it. I
and
can
I'm,
get it to
I'm
her. Okay.
back 15 seconds. Listen to it. Oop, back 15 seconds again.
Yeah, it's not for me.
All right, we are on to select board reports. Are there any? Nobody wants to mention the 4th of July.
AMA, 4th of July parade.
Sure, bring it up.
Yeah. Spent some time with Mr. Jefferson. Probably a good 90 minutes with a handful of folks in late June at the library. to host the Ask Me Anything and a bunch of topics that were raised. Some of that we're following up on tonight and talking about with other people. And I thought it was great. I'd love to keep doing them. Personally, I know I can't because other people are going to want to participate, but I think it was fantastic outreach and really good dialogue, after which there was even more in the parking lot. So I thought it was a great engagement with someone here who was there. So it was great. Agreed?
Learned a new TV show to watch.
Right.
Fabulous.
Outstanding.
Platonic on Apple, just in case you were wondering.
Any commenting?
Told me to watch The Bear. Now my husband and I are obsessed.
So, so I can't do
All right,
this. Right.
come on, guys.
Okay. Rein it in,
We're
Alamo.
sticking with
Rein
the
it in.
reports now. So I'll just mention the 4th of July. I think many of us were in the parade. A fantastic event. I thought I was surprised at how well attended it was. It was around the Common was completely packed, and I was really impressed with it. Great event, and I look forward to that. Being more and more successful. It seems to be better attended each year, so it's exciting. It's a great new event in town.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to agree with you 100%, and I learned that I need to bring a knapsack full of candy for the kids. That was a miss on my part. I won't do it again. My apologies.
Yes, Mr. Jefferson, well played.
Thank you.
The candy man.
I felt quite far out of step with the rest of the group. I thank Miss Foley and her team for not running me over as I held them up a couple times running around. But yeah, it's great. The parade improves every year. It expands every year. Just looking forward to what we can do with it next year.
Absolutely. Any other select board reports? All right. We have the TA report. Over to you.
Thank you. So we are crazy busy. Everyone says it slows down in the summer, and yet to see that happen. So first and foremost, we were the recipients of that regional dispatch grant that we've been talking about. So thank you, Mr. Jefferson. That's a culmination of quite a bit of work from our side as well as Westboro side, mostly Westboro. They took a lion's share of the application process, but really looking forward to now starting the more difficult work of all the logistics and moving this along. We're going to meet in the next couple of weeks with the chiefs and town administrators. Actually, I think Christy's a town manager. I don't want to demote her. And just really get this going. So we received $4,695,500 in total. $245,000 is for project management, $488,000 is for architectural services, and $3.96 is for construction.
Was that the full ask?
No.
Okay.
So, and I've been asked that a number of times, and I don't want people to feel like us not getting the full ask means anything at all. So what I've noticed with 911 grants over the years is that they're looking at what we can spend in year one. So this is a long project, it's probably, it's multi-layered. So they're going to skew us towards what we're going to get done in year one. And then we're going to reapply for the grant in year two and get another chunk to do another section of work. So I'm not overly concerned that we didn't get the full ask. I think we're right on track to get this right where we want it to be.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Jefferson.
Did you have it? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I don't.
Okay. Does some of that project management fund, does that go towards salary for us finding a director to kick that stuff off? I feel like that was part of the discussion about kind of next steps.
Yep. So the short answer is maybe. And so in our next step meetings with Westboro and Grafton, we're going to have to decide how to pursue this. So there are really two methods. One is to hire a director that can serve as a project manager. The other is to hire a project manager to oversee the construction, and then hire a director to oversee future staffing, policy, procedure, all the nuanced stuff. And so it really depends on if we think we can find a person that can do the whole thing together. Those people do exist. Westcom did it that way. Semrec did it that way. They were able to find people that had that experience, that could do project management and dispatch supervision. So the short answer is it depends, and I'm not 100% on how we're going to land on that. It also might be market contingent. We might advertise and get no candidates that we like and decide to split that. But we'll keep you in the loop. This will be a recurring conversation as we get rolling.
This was great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty excited. All right. Staying with our development update. So, thank you, Bill. 8 Pine, still no building permit as of today. 17 and 27 Upton, GSX did go and bring new concepts before the planning board last night. So there is some forward movement on that project. So as far as investing and concepts and moving to that next phase, we are seeing some motion. I do also want to thank GSX. They're allowing us to park all of our fire apparatus on that site for the week of the 24th because we're redoing the floor in the fire department and need a home. So that was very nice to do that. 59 Pleasant Street, I think we all know, it's going through the permitting process before the ZBA. 116 Upton Street, their initial public hearing, I believe, is on the 19th of July. 5 Millennium, that is going to be a 40R project. Their application will be before the select board next Tuesday, the 18th. We did just reach out to those folks to get a copy of their PowerPoint, hopefully prior to the packet going out, just to give everyone a taste of what that is going to look like. Most of this board, if not all of this board, hasn't gone through the 40R process. I have not gone through the 40R process, and Fiona hasn't gone through the 40R process. So we're learning on the go. I think we've got it well in hand, but I just want everybody to get a taste for it in advance if possible.
So what will the board's potential action be?
You will vote to submit the application to what was DHCD.
What's the new one?
Please don't ask me that.
Someday I'll remember that. Okay.
Let's just put a little sticky sign up over here because I never get
DHCD equals.
It's like housing and community living.
Like
yeah, community living or living. At any rate, and so Mark Bobrowski, who is the attorney for the folks at 5 Millennium, he's also the zoning guru in Massachusetts. I do really appreciate part of his PowerPoint talks about what 40R is, what your responsibility is, and what our next steps are. He's been very helpful in the town understanding the process or putting us in touch with the right people at DHCD, which is good. So I'm looking forward to that presentation. And like I said, I'm going to attempt to get it well in advance so that you can all see it before the meeting as well and know what you're going into. And 14 Snow Road, we don't have any submission in any regard from them at this current juncture. Okay, other updates. George Hill Road. So we have our engineering underway. One thing that I learned today that I found interesting that I thought the board might enjoy hearing. Normally we take 10 borings per mile, and that is to check for ledge and other underground things. For George Hill Road, we're doing 20 borings per mile because of the amount of ledge. And that is in direct relation to our attempt to not have any surprises later. There still will be. It's a long road. But this is one of our more aggressive ways to figure out what we're going to run into. Millbury Street sidewalks, this has been intermittent. I want to just remind the board, and we have new members that weren't here when that grant was awarded. So it's a federal grant that we received. We are at the tail end of their 5-year plan of that particular grant. So you're not going to see construction until March of 2024. It intermittently comes up, but it's still going to be, that's just how it's going to be. That's when the money's available and we can get it done.
So that's near the Mulberry Street School.
Correct. It's the walkable communities or walk to school grant. I can't remember what they titled it at the time.
Yeah.
but that's what it's for.
So there's a number of neighborhoods on Millbury
Yep.
Street. This will connect them with the sidewalk. which is
Correct.
fantastic.
And I know folks like, we got the grant and we've been asked a number of times when that's going to come to fruition. The misconception is we did receive the grant, but at year 5 of the Fed's 5-year plan. So we're ready to go. We're just waiting for that money to drop. ARPA sidewalks, I met with Paul last week. We're looking at an extension on North Street. I'm sure that he will eventually be before the board with the exact stop. We don't have that yet, and that would be constructed in March of 24 as well. Okay. Main Street, this is, I went through kind of old things that we haven't talked about in a while. We're on par with our original timeline. That should end at the end of this year, the end of the paving season. I'm going to have you jump a slide. So Main and Ferry, we had a lot of conversation about that intersection and how poor it is. And I know these are small signs. No offense to Paul, but he's an older gentleman. And he doesn't hold his phone sideways, so you get these weirdo pictures. But if you look closely, you can see the orange lines painted. We're widening that intersection by about 8 to 10 feet, and we're pulling back the radius. So that should help with traffic in and out of that intersection. Back up, sir. And then we were talking about this because Anne Marie and I were talking about this a little bit, the flashing pedestrian sign. So we do have 8 on order with no real ETA. Likely the end of July or beginning of August. And we are going to speak with the police chief and Mr. Knoyer about potentially, because the lead time has been so extended, to get another 3 if we are going to put them up at the common. The nice things about the ones we were able to source is that we can install them ourselves. They're solar. We don't have to have an electrician. So it's basically the cost of the unit and a couple of bags of concrete, and our DPW workers can install them for us. So looking forward to getting that project completed as well. Lastly, I spoke to a couple people about AMA questions that came up. I don't know that I've captured all of them, but there's a couple that I just wanted to speak to tonight. And if there's ones we missed, just shoot them to me, and I can get those questions on for the 18th as part of this. So a resident was concerned about a fence at Riverside Cemetery. After doing some investigation, we determined that the fence issue is at Riverdale Cemetery in Northbridge. It is not in Grafton. We don't have any wrought iron fences that are in disrepair, and definitely not at Riverside. So, ironically, not the first time that that's happened to me. People don't realize that they've crossed the line. And they see something in there, they're concerned. So, I did take a ride over to Riverside and confirm that with my own eyes. Building permits, this came up, which is application to issuance, and this comes up quite a bit. And as I've stated numerous times, Grafton is a very busy place. We're doing a lot of development work. So we have 30 days from when you request the building permit to give you your first, contact. We really do try to stick to the 30 days, and what we will do is intermittently we contract with a plan reviewer. So it's a person that literally we just offload 50 building permits, and that's what they do is they review each of those permits. And we do that intermittently as the backlog either ebbs or wanes. And so we're going to continue to do that. We did request last time, actually both times in the budget, a part-time plan reviewer, but it became clear that there was no support for that in the process. So we did not ultimately fund it. So we continue to hover around the 30-day mark. Again, some months it drops down and we're faster, and some months it gets really hard to keep up. One thing we are doing is we are going to be using, and I say using loosely, an employee retirement to hire a new person to replace our retiree. But for the short term, the retiree will be staying on as a part-time employee as part of our training process. Hopefully we can pilot having that extra body and whether or not that actually reduces the backlog. So being how I like to run things, I don't want to just add staff and say more people equals more work. Especially if we can find an efficiency somewhere to gain. But I think this is actually a good real world test that we're going to have the condition anyway, so we might as well see if that actually does solve the problem. And I don't want to get myself in trouble. I'm not saying it's a problem. We're well within our legal bounds, but we want to be as efficient and effective as possible. Before I hear about that tomorrow. Those were the two that seemed like they were in my wheelhouse that came up. And like I said, if anyone has any additional ones that I didn't glean, let me know and I can put them on for next time to answer.
I think that was all that those were the only two issues that weren't also discussed tonight. We did hear a lot about water quality as well that night, so.
Okay. That's it.
Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right,
Mr. Chair.
correspondence. Anybody have any commentary on the correspondence?
No additional, no.
I guess I just had one question, and that is the Fisherville Mill Smart Growth District. So I noticed we did our annual updates, DHCD, whatever they're called now. Is there anything else we could possibly do to spur developer interest down there? It's been packaged for, what, 12, 15 years?
Yeah, so I feel that the town has done its side of what needed to be done. We've helped with grants, we've helped with opportunities. Short of somehow gaining control, which I don't know how we would do that or why we would really want to.
Sure.
No. We did just assist them in applying for a dam. I'm not.
Yeah, it was a grant. For the
Yeah,
dam.
dam
Like a water
grant.
dam.
It's a dam grant. I don't know how else to say it. No, it's a dam reconstruction grant, and for low privately owned dams, and so the municipality has to sponsor it. So there's a dam on the property, which could be a hindrance. You don't want to build your big project. Now you own a dam that's high hazard, and so we are working with the contractor on that, or the owner on that. Otherwise, there's really not a lot that the municipality can do besides one, assisting them in gaining funding and any opportunities that come along, making those connections with Mass Real Estate, all those things which we're doing. We also, John Allen from Economic Development has spent quite a bit of time trying to lure prospective developers to the site. We have met with a number of them over the years, and for one reason or another that seems to fall apart, which is beyond our scope to control.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely.
All right, on to resignations. Don
Mr.
Clark?
Chair, oh, sorry.
Yeah, Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Donald Clark from the Grafton Historical Commission.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Fully aye.
The motion carries. All right, we're on to public comments. Do we have anybody that would like to make any commentary? Anybody on Zoom?
No hands on Zoom.
All right, great. We have meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for June 6th, June 13th, June 20th, and June 21st of 2023 as written.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Fully aye.
Motion carries. And I believe we do not have executive session this evening, so I will take
Mr.
a
Chair?
motion to adjourn. Ms. Foley.
I move the board adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Mead?
Mead, aye.
Alamo, I.
Often aye.
Jefferson, I.
Foley, aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.